Welcome everyone to another edition of Family Matters. You see a slight hesitation there because, of course, this is Family First. We are doing a podcast called Family Matters, but today I have a very special and interesting guest from Family Life. So with all these families and titles, I'm getting confused. But I am delighted today to introduce you to Wynand Jacobs. He's the Executive Director of Family Life here in New Zealand. He's a husband, he's a father, as I say, he's running Family Life, and it's just marvellous to have you, Wynand, on the podcast. Welcome along.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Great to be on. You say running. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm running after kids, after things, all different things. But yeah, let's all run the good race, eh?
Look, I think so. I'm a stepfather in my case to 5. The youngest is now 20, so
Okay.
my running days are now more personal and enjoyable than rather running after the kids. Although I can't speak for yourself, I still find myself calling them kids, even though Rachel's kids go from 20 to 34 years of age. I don't know why I still keep calling them kids.
Yeah, adult kids, eh? They always remain kids in our hearts. Yeah, we've got a 2.5 and a 5-year-old, and boy, they keep us busy. You know, it's a joy. But just to all the other dads or moms, to young parents out there, it's a season, and have grace for yourself because we do different things in different seasons. But yeah, I have the privilege of leading the team here at Family Life. And look, when we first found out about Family Life, we were actually invited to come and join the speaker training, because I mean, Family Life has like couples that speak at our events, and our events help equip married couples to build healthy, strong marriages. And I actually came from South Africa back then. It was about 8 years ago, and I had just published my book, which was on relationships, and just love empowering people in that space. And my background was in coaching, but I was always a little bit of an oddball. And here I was in a room with people just as nuts as I were about making marriages great. And I just fit straight in. Anyway, the rest is sort of history. Some of you may know our former director, Andy Bray, who passed away, sadly a number of years ago. And I think he was at the Forum on the Family for some award at one stage, him and his wife, Nikki.
Nikki? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Nikki was, it'd be a few months back, was at Rachel's church speaking as well. So those connections remain. So you've taken
Yeah.
over from them and obviously been in this role a little while now. So for some of our people will know what Family Life is. I might even share my excellent experience. But for those who don't quite know what Family Life is, tell us about the work that you lead.
Yeah, so and again, privileged to be running in this lane and be part of this work. I do carry the title of executive director these days, but I didn't start this. I mean, this Family Life is really a movement that has been going 30 years in New Zealand, and most well known for the Weekend to Remember couples getaways. So Weekend to Remember is a weekend where you and your spouse go. There's about 80 other couples, at the venue as well. But you listen to speakers share some stories that illustrate some healthy habits you can form in your own marriage. And then there's heaps of project time. So there's no group therapy. It's really just a great, encouraging and uplifting space for couples to invest in their marriage. And look, though some people do come to those weekends when they are really struggling, yeah, it's actually people from all walks of life. You can be checking us out before you check out of your marriage, and you'll find hope, and you'll leave with some practical tools. Or you could come because you just want to make it better. And we literally have people on all scales of that spectrum wanting to invest in their marriage. So it's those events that we do, and we've got materials that people can run sort of studies, either as a couple, or they can get a few couples together and run these studies, but all designed in terms of equipping marriages, equipping families. There's some parenting stuff in there as well. But we believe that when the family is thriving, then it just actually reaches into society on all levels. And so our goal and our mission is really to build and strengthen families in that way.
Well, I know through your website and your podcasts and articles, lots of great resources, but as you say, so much of it is actually linked to a lot of these programs you run. And Rachel and I, about, it would be 8, maybe 9 years ago, we only did a day course, if I recall correctly. I have a memory like a sieve. We could have done the weekend course, but I remember doing it as a pre-marriage and loved it. And I'm not just saying this because you're on the podcast. We absolutely loved it. And at least twofold, if I might, because obviously this is about talking to you. But one was, it was just a marvelous day for her and I to talk about why we wanted to be married, to be led and enriched by the experience of others. But one of the things which stood out for me, we had to write each other a letter about sort of hopes and dreams and where we wanted to be. And I ended up in tears. And I hate to admit that because I don't like to admit to having emotions at times. But I ended up in tears because it was really drawn out how special she was. And we had gone outside and shared these experiences. And that was the culture, the milieu, the context that Family Life had created for us. It was just an amazing experience.
Yeah. And look, you actually hit on our secret sauce right there, because it's about creating a context where we get to focus on this precious relationship. I mean, I don't need to convince everybody that their marriage matters, but like when we create just that space where people can sit, they reflect on good content. And I mean, we have speakers that are married couples that share, and they don't just share about their successes. They actually share about the areas that they've struggled and maybe how they've overcome some of those struggles. And, it's just such an empowering space, empowering environment. And then we don't get you to share any personal information with other people. It's like, it's just for the two of you. So the hero here really is the marriage, and it's the fact that you're there. And being there means, hey, this matters to us. We want to invest in this thing. No matter where we are, like we talk about oneness being the goal of marriage, and then isolation being where we drift if we don't focus on building oneness in our marriage. So wherever you are on that scale of isolation, drifting towards isolation, even when you're married, or moving towards oneness, wherever you are, we hope that, people come there and they leave closer together, more focused, more empowered. But something that's been really also on our hearts is that we're just not reaching people fast enough. I mean, you talk about having come to the weekend, and some people might know about us, and yes, there are people that know about us, and typically they've had a phenomenal experience. Sure, there might be some cases, I don't know. Well, actually, I do know about one or two that wrote to us, but people are upset for their own reasons sometimes. But the majority of people have a tremendous experience at these weekends, because it focuses on this precious relationship, and they leave empowered and equipped. And then most people actually come because they're told that, someone else told them about it. So, word of mouth. But honestly, a lot of people have a lot of I guess hesitation when it comes to, why would I go to a weekend like this? Is this admitting I'm struggling in my relationship? Which really it's not. But so you've had this camp of people that have been through something about, with Family Life. I think 25,000 Kiwis have been impacted by a Family Life event over the 30 years.
How many did you say? 25,000?
25,000, not couples, individuals. So that's 12,500 couples who's been impacted. But here's the thing, Simon, when I look at the 1.7 million families in our nation, that's like a drop in the bucket. And I keep saying this, like we're just not reaching families fast enough. And so, yes, you may have been to something and have had an awesome experience, but a lot of people actually have never heard of Family Life. And we're wanting to do something about it. It's not about Family Life per se, us as a brand, but like we believe that family is one of the most untapped resources for bringing about good in the world. But as a married man, as a dad, you are actually, or stepdad, you are actually not going to be very effective or mindful of bringing about good in your corner of the world if your corner of the world is struggling, right?
Yeah.
So if you get the family to sort of implode or struggle or not have the tools and resources to get out of the the hole that we often find ourselves in when there are these things in relationship that aren't working well, if we're not equipped, we're also not being impactful. Okay, so we say we help couples grow together from isolation to oneness. So that's oneness. We want people to experience marriage the way it was designed to be. A great union where we feel we're one. We're appreciative of one another. We're doing things together. We're on the same page. But that wasn't ever the goal of marriage. Oneness wasn't the goal. That's just the design. We want to help couples move from oneness to impact, where they're actually impacting their corner of the world, where they're passing on help and hope to others, in their corner of the world, and actually just talking openly about, hey, we have these things that we've maybe struggled with, and this has helped us. And you know what? Most of the time when people hear about other people also having challenges, it's like the weight just gets taken off their shoulders and like, oh, they were able to work through things. Maybe we can too.
Well, so many elements of modern society, I think, tries to isolate people from others. And so it's very easy in any space. It doesn't matter if it's your ethical viewpoint, your political viewpoint, says the former MP here, through to your experience in marriage. You can think that it's only you going through this, when in fact, more often than not, what I'm experiencing or others are experiencing, others have been there. And I think it's one of the remarkable things I found with our time. Again, it was a pre-marriage type course, was you were there with others, they were sharing their thoughts and experiences, but it was still personal to Rachel and I. Like, quite honestly, didn't feel compromised. It was one of my little hesitations, which is a bit funny for me because I used to do sort of marriage preparation courses in a former life, and then when it came to me getting ready for marriage, it was like, oh, well, I'm quite busy. How are we going to fit this in, or do I really need it? So I actually went quite reluctantly. Probably a little bit of an arrogance, to be honest with you, Wynand, too. Oh no, I know all about this, but actually I didn't. And it was one of the great elements. And maybe this is one thing to raise with you, because I come across, not just in Christian circles, but for some people, a belief that marriage is almost like this magic, that once you get married, you're just filled, you're sorted, you've got all the tools you need, and because you love each other, it's all just going to work perfectly. There's going to be no road bumps, no trouble. I mean, do you come across that a little bit, and how do we push back against that? Because all marriages need work.
No, not at all. I don't come across that.
All right.
No, I'm just messing with you, of course. Okay. That's the biggest thing. And our first session at the Weekend to Remember actually is called The Myths of Marriage, 5 Myths of Marriage. Because we do come at this relationship with a lot of baggage, like so much baggage. And I think we're not doing ourselves any favors as a culture, as a society, if we don't talk about these things more openly. Because the reality is, when reality and expectations meet and there's a gap, we tend to think that, oh, I must have married the wrong person, or the biggest lie ever, we're just incompatible. Where, I mean, no, the reality is I just need to go and upskill. I need to find better ways. I haven't been married my whole life, so I am learning how to be married. And being married is different than being single. But the thing is, with almost anything in our society, if I don't know how to speak a certain language, if I don't know how to write, if I don't know how to do maths, if I don't know how to build a table out of wood, I go and upskill. I find a mentor, I find a teacher, I Google, I look up YouTube. But why, for some reason, if I don't know how to maintain a healthy, flourishing marriage or relationship, don't we think that we can go and upskill? So that is really one of the stigmas, the challenges that we're up against. So it's first breaking down those myths we had, and then saying, okay, actually, there's a lot of tools that you can build into having better communication, better appreciation, understanding how we fit together, some goals, some common planning, all these things. And let's talk about it.
What do you think is the reason for us in the marriage context, or rather in society in the marriage context, not often looking for those tools or upskilling? Because as you say, in so many other areas, I jump on YouTube. if I needed to work out, the sink's blocked or the wooden table, as you say, jump on YouTube, off we go. I'd be working it out. But a lot of times with marriage, it seems in the modern zeitgeist, the modern context, you hit a road bump. Oh, well, as you say, it's not compatible. We're not working out. We're off.
Yep.
And so, as we know, separations, divorces are huge in this country. So why do you think that's the case? Why do those two situations not operate in the same way? And doubly so when you think that marriage is so much more important than building a wooden table, and yet we're prepared to go and do the work to learn. Any insights from your work in that space?
Yes. Look, the reality is we don't talk about marriage, and we don't talk about even our challenges in terms of how we relate openly as a culture. I think it's a societal thing, because we're not maybe trained how to do relationships well. At school we learn how to read and write. We train our kids how to do maths and maybe some other technical skills. We don't train them how to do relationships well, not from a left brain perspective. We do train them though from a right brain perspective. It's not a cognitive logical training, but it's caught, right? So because everything I know from relationship actually comes from my family of origin and the people I hung out with, right? So relationship skills, for that matter, we don't officially train them, but we do train them, and we often train them very poorly, right? So it's you heard the saying, it's better caught than taught. And although that's true, it can also be taught, and you probably want to have a mix of both. So we share some stats, and there's some staggering, discomforting, alarming stats on marriage. And actually, I might just share a few with you on this call. So
please.
This is from the New Zealand 2022 data. Okay, so it says 5,853 children under 17 had parents who were granted a divorce last year. 5,800 children under 17 had parents in 1 year granted a divorce. Family breakdown. Okay. 33% of marriages, a lot of people think it's 50%. It's actually not 50% in New Zealand. And it's 33% of marriages, it's just over 1/3, end in divorce by a couple's 25th wedding anniversary, right? And that seems quite grim. But I also just want to say, just because the stat is 33%, it doesn't mean when you get married, you have a 33% chance.
Yeah, good. That's good to know.
That's not reflective of your probability of your marriage ending in divorce. It's just stats of the nation. Says nothing about your individual marriage, right? And then another stat that's pretty grim, and this is gripping, and this is why I think the work you guys are doing in terms of, I guess, being the watchdog and protecting in a certain way, the work we're trying to do as well in terms of helping that families stay strong. But 25%, that's the proportion of families with dependent children headed by a sole parent. 25% of families, that's for every 4 kids you see, one of them has just a mom or a dad at home. One of them do not have that security, that umbrella, that safety, that protection that I believe is just every kid's right, is having a mom and dad figure in their lives who love them, who care for them, who nurture them, who parent them, right? 25% of kids in this nation do not have that.
Yeah. And it makes
because of marriage breakdown.
And it makes life exceptionally difficult. And I mean, I often phrase it in the terms of ideals, because we'll all know of amazing parents out there, or single parents. It's a hard job. It's a really, really hard job. And, if I might, hats off to them for what they do. Yep. And I suspect for neither of us there's any challenge to the good that they're trying to do. But to use the language I prefer for myself, that is, it's not ideal, actually. The mum and the dad who have created the children are there loving and supporting, but also sharing the job, sharing the stress. When it's just yourself, God, Rachel will tell you, I mean, we're not obviously single parents, but boy, just leave me in control of the house for 2 days and it's rolling chaos. We've got to
because
share
we're
the
a team,
load.
right?
We are.
we're designed compatible. We're designed to complete, not to compete one another. But look, there's some grim stats about marriage and family breakdown in our country. But let me share some other research that's also been done. And this is a bit more light at the end of the tunnel. If a woman from an intact home marries a man from an intact home, that means mom and dad is still married. Guess what their success rate in marriage is? Just take a guess.
Oh, you've put me on the spot.
So if the general success rate is about 66%, okay, so now we're saying if a man from an intact family, mom and dad was still married, marries a woman from an intact family, how much do you think that improvement would be up from 66%?
I'd be putting it to 90%. There we go. I'm gonna push out the
There you
boat.
go. That's a good guess, and you're 1% off. It's 91%. So
I'm ruined.
This
That's
doesn't
it.
need.
No.
That's it. You can just come and work for us now, Simon. That's all right. But no, the important thing about this stat is this doesn't necessarily mean they had good relationships married, just lasting relationships. In terms of what they've seen demonstrated in the home that they grew up in. So in essence, what we're saying here is mentorship, right? Model. Having something modeled to me means I have something to actually work towards. And so, how do we can actually change the situation in our country in one generation if we just get people to stay married. Now, hopefully we just don't want them to bear being married. We want them to have amazing marriages. And I'd like to think we have ways of helping people do that. But really, you're mentoring the next generation just by staying together and hopefully demonstrating some good ways of doing that, good ways of resolving conflict. Most people think conflict is bad. Some people say, "Oh, we don't have any. We've got a great marriage. We don't have any conflict." Well, how deep is that relationship? How honest are you with one another? Where in essence, and I heard this morning, this is just a great quote. I was on another call and someone said, relationships are about rupture and repair, not about keeping the peace at all times. And I just thought that was such a profound statement, because we get those ruptures, we get those things in relationship that is tricky to navigate. But I've found that every time you lean in to those moments and work on repairing that, your relationship just grows deeper and more fuller, and the appreciation for one another grows. Whereas if you think it just needs to be peaceful all the time, you're not going to engage when you're in a disagreement necessarily, and when you are in a disagreement, you're actually going to think you need to check out. You're going to think there's no hope of repairing that because your goal or your standard is peace. Now, sure, we want peace in our homes, but sometimes peace is at the end of actually working through conflict. Now, when we get two different people in the room, that doesn't mean you married the wrong person. It just means you're married.
Yeah. Well, it's also, in my experience, more counselling people, I might add, there's a lot of resentment which comes or can come if the couple is avoiding any form of disagreement or argument. As you say, if you're just trying to be peaceful for the sake of it and not allowing one's opinion or feeling or thoughts to be brought forward in discussion, resentment really builds. But the other analogy that jumps to mind for me is, as someone who is a runner, when you're wanting to keep fit, you've got to obviously keep training, which means you're pushing out further and further. But, if you're into physiology, you know that the more you run or any sport, you actually, this might sound a bit graphic, but you're tearing your muscles.
Exactly.
And then they repair. And then you get stronger. So again, I suppose we're not saying to listeners, go out and pick a fight with your with your other half, but actually where there is disagreements, work through that. And I think, if I might, for Rachel and I, we try to demonstrate to the kids or the young ones how we are working through discussing and debating issues. That you've used the term a couple of times now, modelling, and for us, for what our experience is worth compared to yours and family lives, it is modelling that behaviour, cooperating, discussing, debating. and then moving forward.
Yeah, look, and we think it's about being perfect, about having this perfect marriage, but actually, no, it's about working towards healthy. And I used to think marriage was going to bring out the best in me, but I soon found out it actually brought out the worst in me. Because you've got someone living in this close proximity to you, and they get on your nerves, man. They just, it's designed that way. The marriage relationship is designed to actually bring out your flaws, but not for the purpose of revealing them and discarding you as a person, or putting you up as not good enough. It is actually in the context of a bond of a lifelong commitment, because that's what marriage is really. It's not a contract relationship, it's a covenant relationship. It's not a you do, I do, it's I promise to, till death do us part. Like marriage is a till death vow. So it's within the safety of that for life commitment that I have the safety to then actually allow this brokenness in me to come out, knowing that the relationship will be strong enough for me to walk through that pain and walk through health. Because we all enter marriage, we all enter relationship with some type of trauma, and we're needing to grow. And marriage is also this gift for us to heal and to grow towards wholeness. But so many people avoid the sticky points in marriage, and they actually never get to the wholeness. Whereas every time there's a rupture in your relationship and repair, it's the same way you get stronger. You don't get stronger by exercise, you get stronger by rest, and that you're saying the muscles tearing and then building back stronger. So the real reality, and this is one of our taglines for our getaways, is great marriages don't just happen. And this is going full circle to your question before, Simon, where you said, why is it that people have this mindset about marriage, and it's this magical thing, and it's just going to be happily ever after? Well, no, it's going to actually reveal a lot of the flaws in you. But in this is the beauty of growing together and creating lots of joy, lots of wholeness, and then a great marriage. But it won't just happen. It will take intention and effort, and two people committing to the same goal of marriage oneness together.
I can't help but think too, as you're speaking, that covenantal element as opposed to the contract element, that particularly in modern society where I think it's much more contractual, let's just get together, let's get married because it'll be a fun party, and look, if we hit any roadblocks, we'll just up sticks and go. I couldn't help but think, as you were describing that more eloquently than me, that in some ways, once society's taken on a contracted mindset, they've almost created the inner structure for failure, because we've just said, look, it's really just for convenience, and I'm not going to be prepared to open myself up fully because I could, and it's almost subconscious, says me, trying to become a pop psychologist, that if I don't think this is forever, or I'm not prepared to work at it forever, then I'm not really going to give all of myself over. I'm going to avoid being me, and that's sort of a seed of destruction, arguably.
Well, that's it. Like, and a lot of people actually go their whole lives in that state. They might still be together and still be married, but have they engaged in the fullness? The thing is, marriage is a godly thing. Like it's God's design, right? It's the first marriage is recorded in the Bible in the book of Genesis, and it talks about how a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. That joining together of one, that's a significant process. And we talk about oneness in the way, and we also say that, look, if marriage was God's design, then maybe he has some principles that would serve us better than modern Western society is serving us. And look, what Western society, with all the great things that it's brought us in terms of comforts and money back guarantees and online shopping and all these things, it's just not like that. I don't go on, well, I sort of go online and I can find myself a wife these days, but you don't buy a wife online. And
right, now it's on the podcast. There we go. We've got the snippet we're after.
Yeah, you got them, but you don't have that money back guarantee. I mean, I tried giving my wife back to my father-in-law, but he said, no, I'm not taking her back. No, that's just a joke. But like we, our minds are trained in our society, and I mean, I'm talking from a Western perspective here. Our minds are trained to find the thing that's going to best suit our preferences. We're comparing it online. We watch reviews, and look, we don't even bother to buy it, thinking that we need to keep it because we can just give it back if we're not fully satisfied with it. And so, how can we build something that lasts a lifetime in this always recycling, instant gratification, fast food um, society? It's like, well, marriages and relationships don't actually work that way.
Yeah, well, the word that's in my mind is marriage is not a convenience in the same way as you say of choosing a Coke versus a Pepsi, buying a house, a car, trading something back in. It's not the way it operates. But unfortunately, that seems to be the general mindset, and it's creating, from what I observe, just enormous amount of hurt, which is
Yeah.
what brings us back to that, if you will, that positive statement. Marriage, this God-given gift.
Yes.
Has its challenges. I suppose that's part of the Christian message too. Before the resurrection, there's the cross.
Come
But
on.
marriage, though, it's, well, I suppose one of the things we've been touching on the whole way is it's something that needs to be worked at.
Yeah.
And so this is something that, well, you said it right at the start. I remember when I was, or we started discussing it at the beginning,
Mm.
when Rach and I were doing the marriage prep. A couple of friends like, oh, why are you doing this? Are things already in trouble? And it was like, well,
Exactly.
well, no, things are okay. So, I mean, as part of your work trying to advocate to people that you don't need to come to a family life weekend or course when it's all going to, excuse the French, hell in a handbasket. You're meant to be there to constantly sort of nourish that relationship you started how many years ago?
Exactly. That and spot on. It's when it comes to our finance, we take out insurance. We have a rainy day like savings account, for things that go wrong. Well, in our marriage, have we invested? Have we saved up relational capital, if you will, for when we hit a crisis? When something goes wrong? Or are we just sort of cruising along and then hoping our marriage will survive the pressure that life throws at us? So what I encourage people with is like, if you haven't made the deposits when things are going well, and not if, but when the challenge comes, you probably won't have a lot to draw from. And so then you'll be at the mercy of other people helping you out. And look, there are people that help you out, and look, it's we I think of us in many ways as merchants of hope. One of our taglines used to be help for today, so giving practical help for today and hope for tomorrow. It's like the first foundation of actually making your marriage work is you need that baseline hope that we can do it. But where will you find it if everybody's just talking about how bad it is, and it's not? Look, and I feel like we've spent a lot in terms of that reality check. But look, marriage and married life is awesome. And the joy that comes from being married and being in this relationship with somebody that gets you and sometimes doesn't get you really, but you learn to live with one another, and you learn to appreciate one another, and you're stronger for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's this beauty that someone once said, nothing is as beautiful as young love. And think about it, this young couple, they're all over one another. The reality hasn't really quite hit home in terms of what it's going to take to sustain a lifelong relationship where two different worlds will collide. And this hormone, this in love hormone, is still at work here. So people say there's nothing as beautiful as young love, and there's some truth in that. But I actually think there's nothing as beautiful as old love. Now, I want to talk for a moment about legacy, because a friend of mine uh, recently told me about that she started a job with what's the ambulance called? St. John's Ambulance
St.
Service,
John's,
right?
yep.
And so she's working in the call center, and so she's receiving these calls for emergencies, and sometimes these emergencies are people, think needing some help and just needing to be almost like talked off the ledge there. And then other times, like this one call, she said this lady was ringing, saying, the gentleman was ringing, and his wife had a heart attack, and she was still alive, and he was on the phone with my friend, and she was sort of coaching him how to um, help her and stay alive, and while the ambulance was on the way. And then she could just hear over the phone him say to her, "Honey, it's okay. I'm here right next to you. It's going to be okay. I'm right next to you, just like I was 60 years ago."
Isn't that's actually just quite moving in itself, isn't it?
I struggled to tell that story without not really working hard at holding back the tears, because isn't that what we really want for our marriage when we say our dues? Because the love that has stood the test of time, that commitment, that bond, that is precious beyond anything that money can buy. That is legacy, and that is what we really hope for.
It is, but we as a society love that. Everyone, sorry, that's a bit too bold a statement, but most people will comment if they see an older couple walking down the road hand in hand, or still dining out at the restaurant. There is something quite profound in that, to use your word, that legacy. And yes, I think it's just something we know intuitively deep down as humans, but obviously something we struggle to. But if I might as well, because you did mention it, and I should put it on the podcast record as I have elsewhere, but I think marriage is amazing. I mean, Rach and I only married for 8 years. We're over the 7-year hump that I was warned about through a certain Marilyn Monroe movie. No,
come on, virtual high five. Well done, go Simon.
But it's been marvelous, and it's been the best decision of my life. Got married late in life, but it's just been amazing, and all the stuff that you've been touching on, Wynand, it's sharing life together. And bring it on. Hopefully not me having a heart attack or Rachel with the St. John's, but to actually be there, if you will, hand in hand at the end.
Yeah, look, and that's the goal, right? That's the goal. Let's aim for that for-life commitment. And the beauty is, you don't have to change the whole world to change the world. If you're married and you're thinking about, am I going to get through this? Find a way. Get through it, make it work, and there's a saying that says, if the grass is greener on the other side, maybe it's time to start watering your own lawn. So if you're setting up your marriage, your relationship for success and for life, and you're going to walk through those difficult seasons together and commit to oneness, commit to your promise, not your feelings. You may have made a promise based on how you felt at the point in time, but come on, we're not as humans, fundamentally, we are different from animals because we don't have to follow our instincts. We don't have to follow our feelings. We actually can restrain our appetite, and this goes so deep to so many different things, but we don't have to follow our feelings. So if I don't feel like showing my wife love right now, or maybe even showing her the love that she doesn't deserve, well, I'm not going to look at my feelings. I'm going to go back to my commitment. What is the commitment I made? And once I start acting in accordance with my commitment, well, here's the surprising truth: is feelings start following.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that 91% success rate. If we can change this generation to stay together, 91% of the future generation will not have to go through that broken family space, right?
Yep.
And that's just the start.
And the thing is too, isn't it? This is not for people just sticking it out, staying together just for the sake of the concept of marriage. It's at least twofold beyond that. One is actually it's good for the couple to work through, and as you've kept intimating too, if people have children, it's good for their children. It is going to make a profound impact. I can't help but think of, it's a wonderful analogy from C.S. Lewis, not being applied to marriage per se, but he talks about a sculpture, like a marble sculpture, and that it's
Yeah.
the blows of the hammer which
Yeah.
make it perfect. And so analogous into marriage is that, marriage is like a work of art, a sculpture. And there are many blows of the hammer that are going on in order to create this. Oh my!
Look at this. You said the magic word. I actually have a hammer here.
I didn't
because
even
we're busy
realize.
with-
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious. We're busy in this with the series at the moment with bricks and hammers, and the whole idea is that and I think of this as a sledgehammer. I know this is for health and safety purposes, just a rubber mallet, but think of this as a sledgehammer, and this is slightly different to the analogy you were using. And think of this as the brick. This brick actually has family life on it. So we're going through the series at the moment where we're talking about bricks and hammers and how there are certain things that act as sledgehammer breaking down the wall or the building, in terms of marriage. And then we say, well, there are certain bricks that you want to build into your marriage, and these are principles, that things like service and humility and patience and responsibility, gratitude, empathy, surrender, and kindness. These are the bricks that you want to build with in terms of your marriage. Whereas things like selfishness, pride and contempt, anger, blame, entitlement, argumentative nature, control, these things act like hammers and they actually break down. Now, I mean, I'm not going to go deep into that analogy right now, but you said the buzzword there, hammer, and I thought, well, I just have to share this because I feel like visuals are good, right? And sometimes we're unconsciously hammering away at what we're trying to build, and sometimes those hammers cause a little bit of rupture. But the good thing is if we repair and grow stronger, we can actually, like, if I've took a hammer to my marriage, hopefully not to my wife, like we're not propagating violence over here, but if I've done some stuff in my marriage to destroy our connection or to damage it severely, there's hope. There's hope that I could actually rebuild. And actually, I love the saying, it's never too late to start doing the right thing. You may have just like messed it all up all this time. And look, you can even have all these bricks. And, it's like shamelessly say that you can have all the bricks, but bricks just piled on top of each other is just a stack and it's going to fall over. Unless you have the mortar, like cementing those bricks together, you're not going to build a strong house, and we believe that Jesus Christ, the relationship with him is that mortar that actually brings us together. Marriage is his idea. And like, I really believe all the marriage advice in the world won't do me and my marriage and any marriage any good if you don't also have a posture of humility, a posture of actually engaging with one another and demonstrating something bigger than yourself in this relationship.
That's been my experience. It is those moments of humility, or actually, it's often if I've done something wrong. If Rachel was here, she might list them off. No, but it's actually at those moments of not weakness. But I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's at those moments where actually you're saying sorry, and you're reaching back out to your better half, to in this case my wife. That there's something, something quite profound in those moments, and it's quite renewing, I find.
Come on.
But I'm blessed, I have to say. I'd be remiss in not saying that Rachel would tell me off. We've been very blessed over our 8 years of marriage, and a big part of that has been actually engaging with amazing people. We got married, as I said, a bit later in life, so we brought a lot of experience with us, but have also managed to engage with a lot of people over the years that have helped guide us, and now continue to guide us, because it's not a lone journey. And I might add too, because a lot of people will often talk about marriage is good for children, which it is.
Yeah.
But actually the children are good for us. And I say that again as a step parent, but actually I learn from the kids and what they've got to say and their insights and observations at times. It's something quite mutual at play there, particularly with the children.
Yeah. Oh, look, you talk about children. When you have children as a married couple, it completely changes the dynamic for the good and sometimes for the worse, because all of a sudden there's just a new breed of pressure in your marriage. And if you haven't built those healthy building blocks into your relationship, made those deposits, a lot of marriages actually don't survive kids because of that. And it's a busy time. It's a busy time for parents adjusting to all the needs of having kids. But what I say ultimately is kids reveal to us our own maturity, right? Because on the selfish to selfless scale, parents hopefully are the selfless one, sacrificing their own sleep in the middle of the night to go and feed the baby. The selfish one, as in, I need my milk, I need it now, right? It's like my needs, my needs, my needs versus not my needs, but somebody else's needs. And isn't that our growth and our maturity? And so marriages, like ultimately that don't make it, it's like we've failed to make that adjustment of going from my needs, which is pretty much what I've been focused on my whole life. Now I'm married, and now it's actually no longer my needs. It's actually us, and we're a new thing. As a married couple, we're new. Yeah, we still have our individual traits, but actually, I will never be Wynand, single Wynand again, and Elray, my wife, would never be single Elray again. We are Wynand and Elray. We are together. And so that means decisions are made together, we grow together, our successes and our struggles are done together. And there's no place for selfishness in that relationship. And kids have a way of helping us grow, a few inches. They help us mature, and we bring that maturity in the relationship. But often, if we don't have any support or maybe mentors in our lives, sometimes the pressure that comes with kids actually means the relationship that doesn't matter. And here's what I say to parents. It's like, you never made your vows to your kids. You made them to your spouse. So you need to protect that relationship first, because that relationship, a flourishing marriage, is going to lead to a safe environment and the best possible environment for your kids to grow up in. So I know parents often adjust more to focusing on the kids' needs and they neglect their spouses. But my encouragement be the best thing you can do for your kids is to have a great marriage. And look, if you don't know exactly how to do it, check us out at a Family Life weekend, or go online. There's actually so much you can do to equip yourself in the space. But yeah, you just have to have that mindset, I guess.
Well, one last observation, because we'll need to wrap up in order for you to go and support more families. But you were talking about, obviously, children. In my case, I came in a bit late in the piece. The youngest was 6, so I missed all the toddler. I see it as good planning.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's that in giving that you receive. It's again counter, I would argue, to the modern mindset, particularly Western mindset of give everything to me, I just need to take to be fulfilled. But actually part of certainly the Christian tradition is that in giving you receive. And so, in the family context, the more that you pour into not only your relationship, but into your children or stepchildren in my case, you actually receive a lot more back. And I'm not doing it. I don't think in the Christian tradition we're doing that for the reward as such. We just have learnt over time that, yes, as you give, that selflessness actually makes a profound impact on you as well. Yeah, and in giving, you receive.
Yeah. Look, it's all a journey of maturity, to be honest. And I don't like being called immature. I don't know about you.
No.
But even at 36, sometimes like I need to look myself in the mirror and actually say, Wynand, what you did just there, that was an immature response. Now, maybe you had every right to respond that way, but where was the grace? Where was the patience in that response? And honestly, if you had a little bit more maturity, you would have reacted differently. And don't try and tell your spouse that they're being immature.
No, there's major marriage tip. Don't.
Right. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, because honestly, your marriage is going to reveal something about yourself to you. And when I get up and I look in the mirror in the morning and my hair is in all different directions and I don't like what I see, well, guess what I do? I fix my hair. I shave. I wash my face. All these things. Um, Maybe I even put on some makeup, But the fact is, if I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see, how many of us have ever actually broken the mirror? But isn't that what we do in our relationship? Because if the relationship is strong, it's actually working like a mirror, reflecting back to us. And we don't always like what we see in the mirror. But then sometimes our response is to dull the connection, which means you dull the mirror. You break the mirror.
I'd also suggest sometimes
right.
we project on. It's not quite a mirroring, but we project ourselves onto our spouse and then start having a crack at them. Something I've certainly observed with some couples that I've counselled, that they're looking in the mirror, they don't like what they see, but now they project, if you will, mirror that onto the spouse and then have a crack at them and say, whoa, don't try and fix the spouse, fix yourself.
Yep. And so if you had to draw a circle around your chair, and you think about all the people in the world that you have control over, how many people do you actually have control over? On a good day,
hopefully yourself.
On a good day, hopefully one. And that's where self-control comes in, like patience and not acting out in anger and on all these different things, these principles. But instead of trying to change other people, man, let's just embrace this lifelong commitment of being married and actually saying, hey, this is my journey of maturity. And I can take 20 years to mature, or I can actually fast track that process by not resisting it so much, not trying to hide my flaws. I always say my biggest relationship stuff-ups make for my best radio content. And boy, isn't that true? Because people relate more with your failures and how you've been able to walk through them than they do your successes. They might be impressed by my successes, but people are really moved by the flaws, the brokenness. And look, honestly, we're all a work in progress. We're broken people. But this is where I believe and again, like, I make it pretty obvious and clear. My faith in Jesus Christ means it's okay that I'm broken, because he's actually brought the solution for my brokenness, and he doesn't expect me to be perfect, but he actually helps patch me back together, and it's my brokenness that actually gives that opportunity to grow and ultimately bond together. And so that's why I believe that's the cement that brings us and keeps us together in this relationship. When my brokenness comes out and it hurts my spouse, there's actually a solution for that. And there's a way to redemption, and there's a way to hope. Without hope, no marriage can make it. And so can we be the merchants of hope, is what I'd say.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to wrap up. We're going to have to talk again, because obviously marriage is such a rich, I was going to say sacrament, that takes me back to my theology days, but it's such a rich relationship, and there's so much to offer. But look, it's very clear to me from the time we've talked, not only yourself, Wynand, but actually the wider family life has much to offer. So if there are couples listening, be they at the crisis level or through to those who are just starting out, how do they best find you and your work?
Yeah, well, check us out at FamilyLife.nz. And there's a bunch of stuff from events coming up. We'll be in Tauranga in October for a weekend to remember. But yeah, definitely check out the website. There's digital stuff. There's a lot of free stuff. Check out date nights. There's digital resources down there, and it's like we try and make it fun. Like, we're always thinking, how can we help couples engage better? We also have a podcast. We're on the radio, on Radio Rima every week. So there's a bunch of places, but everything sort of links through on familylife.nz.
Well, I certainly encourage everyone to do so, and I say that from personal experience. It's been a few years, and off camera, Wynand's been rightly encouraging me and Rachel to find some time and to continue, if you will, recharging batteries. So look, Wynand, thank you for all that you do to promote marriage, family throughout New Zealand. I really wish you well.
Yeah, well, ditto. Thank you for all you do, Simon, and thank you for this conversation today. I hope it's encouraging to your listeners.
Well, it's been encouraging to me, so that's at least one win, but I have every confidence that this will be really well received. So again, thank you so much.
My pleasure.